Welcome to another Quilt Lessons with Reed. Today I'm going to show you an easy way to make a square in a square block or a square on point block. So I have a pattern coming out that requires square on point or square in a square blocks, and it's an 8-inch finished block. And so the pattern requires for a central color square that is 6 1/8 inch, and it needs to be that particular measurement. I know people aren't crazy about an 1/8 inch, but it does need to be that requirement. Now normally to go on the corners, what would be required would be a 4 7/8 inch rectangle. And the way you get those rectangles is by taking a square and cutting it in half like this. But 7/8 are sometimes hard for people to cut, and also cutting it to that exact measurement means that your sewing needs to be exact as well, and that doesn't always work out. And sometimes this particular block tends to get a little wonky. So we're going to actually make these squares a little bit larger than what would normally be called for. Instead of making them 4 7/8, we'll actually make them 5 1/4. So they're going to be a little bit oversized, and then that way they can be trimmed down. So the first thing would be to have your center square like this, and then to take your two corner pieces that we're going to get triangles from, and basically put the corners on a line, take your ruler, and then basically slice the squares in half to get triangles. And then when you've done that, the first thing is to take two of the triangles and put them on opposite ends of the square. And in order to get them centered in the right place, I recommend folding this square and pressing it this way, and folding it this way and pressing it. And so you can see we get a little line there. Then I also recommend folding these triangles in half. And so then you take where it's folded here and there and line the two up, and make sure that the point is lined up with your line here. And then you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch along there. You're going to take this other piece and line it up with the lines. And again, you're going to want to make sure that that center point is right on the line. And you can pin this if you like. If you pin it, just be careful to not stretch the fabrics, because this happens to be a biased edge right here. So then you would take this other side and sew a 1/4 inch along here. And I'm not going to show you the sewing because that's basically just sewing a straight line. And then once we have these pieces sewn on, there's going to be the two other pieces, which are a little bit lighter green, and they are going to go on these opposite corners. But before we get to those, we need to do a little bit more work with these. So now I have taken and sewn these two pieces on opposite sides of the square. You set them with the iron, which just means pressing the iron down to set the seam, and then press towards the outside corners, and do the same thing with the other side. So we get something that looks like this. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim up these dog ears and get them off of there. You can just do this with a straight ruler and cut those off. And do the same thing on the other side. And it's super easy because you can just line up this line with the seam line and line up this line down here with the seam line. And it makes it really easy to cut those dog ears off. So once you've done that, we have a piece that looks like this. Then we're going to take these other two triangles and we're going to put one up here and one down here. And again, we have lines from when we folded this, so we're going to take and match those up. Do the same thing down here, match up this line and make sure that it lines up the point with this line. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch along here and a 1/4 inch along here. And when we do that, we get something that looks like this. And now this is oversized. What we need this to be is 8.5 inches. And if we measure this, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like 8 3/4. So we're going to be trimming about a 1/4 inch off all the way around. And the easiest way to do that is, I'm left-handed, so this is going to seem backwards to you right-handed people. But if you're right-handed, you basically would put the 1 and the 1 in the upper right-hand corner, but because I'm left-handed, I'm going to do it this way. Then this block is supposed to measure 8.5 unfinished. And so half of that would be 4 1/4. So we want to take this 4 1/4 point right there where that dot is and put that in this little triangle. You know, in the corner of that triangle right there, the corner of that square, we want to put that 4 1/4 dot. And so basically by doing that, we know that we're centered, and we also want the same line, the 4 1/4, to be in this corner down here as well. So we want it up here. And if you put that dot right in the exact center of where that square meets the other two pieces, you're going to leave a 1/4 inch up here when you trim over here and trim over here. Now we need to do the same thing with these other points. So we would now want to go down to 4 1/4 here, and we would want that to be inside that. And then also the same thing over here. We want the 4 1/4 to be lined up with this. And we want to leave a 1/4 inch, so we're going to move that dot to right there. And this dot right here. And the 4 1/4 is over here. And the 4 1/4 is also down here. So right now, it looks like I have it lined up pretty good. So we're going to take and trim along this side. And we're also going to trim along the top here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the block and rotate it 180 degrees. And now we need to be concerned with the 8.5 over on this side. So we're going to look at the 8.5 inch line over here and the 8.5 inch line down here. And we're going to put that intersection right in that corner and get this all lined up along here. And again, we're going to be looking, is the 4 1/4 line lined up with that? It is. Looks like it could be moved down just a little teeny bit. And then also we're going to look for the 4 1/4 line over here. It also is lined up. And this could be moved over a little bit. And that's going to leave a 1/4 inch beyond that point. So we're going to trim along here and trim along the top. There's not a lot to trim off, so you see, even with making it 5 1/4 inches on those squares, it still didn't leave a whole lot to trim off. I mean, that's what we trimmed off. That's not much. And there we have it, our perfectly created square to square or square on point block. So if you like this video and would like to see more Quilting with Reed videos or quilt lessons with Reed, please be sure to give this a thumbs up. Be sure to share it with all of your quilting friends, and hit that subscribe button so that you'll see all the videos that we create in the future. And also, if you hit the little bell, you'll be notified when I post a new video. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.